Hello and welcome to Disabled Lives Matter, where we put the spotlight on not only people with various disabilities, but we also interview and talk to those that help them on a daily basis. And here we just simply give them the floor to tell their stories, give advice, and inspire. So, without further ado, we're going to start our first episode. And today we have a very special guest. She is my role model and definitely someone who I learned a lot from, and that is my mother, Linda McCoy.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
That's great. That's great. Okay, and so you and I, we both know a lot about dealing with individuals who have disabilities. And so I just want you to, just take your time out today and just share your story with those out there that may be going through the same thing, or some people who just may be curious and they can just relate in many different ways, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people can relate to your story. So we're going to start out with asking you, so where are you from? What is your hometown?
Well, I'm from Miami, Florida. Initially, I was born in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, but I was raised in Miami, Florida until I moved here to Atlanta.
Okay, great. How was it growing up in Miami?
Well, coming up in my day and time, it was quite different. When we came up in Miami, we pretty much actually, we lived off the land. We got our fruits from off of the trees, the oranges, the cherries, you name it. It grew wild for us, and that's how we ate. It was a totally different time. We certainly did not have technology like you guys have today.
Yeah, that's
Totally
true.
different.
Are you currently taking care of a family member who is disabled?
Well, I pretty much assist you in managing his care, but there was a time when I had to be hands-on with him before I was blessed with enough nurses to relieve me of those duties. So yes, I am. I do step in from time to time whenever I'm needed. I'm certainly here.
Absolutely. And can you touch on or elaborate a little bit more on what exactly you had to do before you were able to get nurses to actually help you?
Well, I did everything. I did his care from A to Z. Fortunately for me, I was blessed to have one of my sisters who worked at Shepherd Spinal Center, where Darren was initially brought here to Atlanta. She was a respiratory therapist there. She had been there for a little over 10 years. And she was very instrumental in helping me organize and set up Darren's care. Um, Certainly, I can understand where anyone could feel overwhelmed, afraid when something like this happened, when it's something traumatic and catastrophic, like it happened to your brother. I can understand how someone would be overwhelmed and afraid and wouldn't have a clue as to what to do or how to take care of a loved one like that. But fortunately, when Darren was discharged from the hospital, like most facilities, they would discharge them, and they will not give you instructions. They will not tell you how to care for someone like your brother. So my sister and I, we pretty much put our heads together and we set up a care plan for your brother from A to Z. They did not give me any referrals in terms of doctors, um, anything. What he needed, we had to start from scratch. We called the hospital. We got names of doctors and everything that he needed. They sent him home. They gave me 2 weeks and they said tops, and your brother would be gone. But your brother had a strong will to live, and he said that he was going to live, and as long as he had that will to live, we were certainly determined that we were going to stand by him and help him achieve that goal of living. So your Aunt Dee and myself, we set up a program for him from A to Z, from getting him up in the morning, bathing him, setting up the protocol for everything, doctor's appointments. We did it all. We even created a communication log so the nurses could communicate with one another. We set up his care. We mimic it. We set it up just like you would an ICU unit, so to speak, because your brother's care is ICU 24/7. So we had to set something up at home that would mimic what we saw in the hospital in order to assure and accommodate him the best quality care possible.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing story. And so,
Thank you.
explain to the viewers out there who don't know exactly Darian's his diagnosis and what his injury or disability is exactly.
Darren was diagnosed as a C1 quadriplegic, which is, they said, was the worst that anybody could have. Your brother made medical history as the only person to survive with the level of injury that it was. As a matter of fact, I got a phone call from Dr. Bart Green at the Miami Institute in Miami, Florida, shortly after your brother was transferred here to Atlanta, that your brother had actually made medical history and that he was the only person, the 26th person at that time that had ever survived the level of that injury at that time. So to me, that was very frightening. That was so scary because I'm like, oh my God, no one has ever survived this. And so it was pretty scary. It was very scary. Just the thought of that, even thinking about it now, takes me someplace. So yeah, it was quite an experience.
Yes, yes. Can you tell me exactly how he became disabled?
Well, your brother was involved in an injury on the job where he experienced 2 head injuries in the course of a 2-week span. The first one was a fall. He fell 20 feet and he landed on his buttocks and knocked a hole in the drywall. The second one, a pallet broke and hit him upside the head. But the interesting thing about your brother's injury was that, after his injuries, they didn't take him down right away. It was over a period of time where he became incapacitated while he was at work again.
What is it like on a daily basis dealing with a C1 quadriplegic, and what challenges do you overcome on a day-to-day basis?
Well, every day I have the challenge of overcoming my fears. Overcoming the fear of this may be the last day or the last time that I see him. Overcoming the fears of having the right nurses, the right lineup, the perfect lineup, not the perfect people, but the perfect crew of people that would give him quality care. That's a challenge every day. And just accepting that, in this particular situation, you just really have to take like one day at a time. And you have to understand that you cannot live with what happened yesterday. You certainly don't know what's going to happen in the future. So what you do is you keep hope for the future and hope that something, one day, somehow something will happen to give them a second chance at life. But at the meantime, what you do is you deal with reality, what you have to deal with today. And every day you wake up, you understand that I got to deal with this today, just as I did yesterday. But today is a new day. And every day will offer new challenges depending on what happens in that period of day. So there's no way, and I guess I could say just the unknown every day, not knowing, what challenges that you would face that day. But I could truly say that once you accept your fears and you understand that, this is normal, that you are entitled to your emotions and that you have every right to be afraid, you have every right to get depressed. And when you do, you're not hard on yourself, or you don't beat yourself down, and you don't let other people tell you that, oh, you don't have faith or you don't have that, because People don't understand your path unless they walk it. That's the number one, which you have to understand. And you have to extend grace to them because they don't know. They do not know. They don't have a clue as to what you go through on a daily basis, as I don't know what they go through on a daily basis. But as I was saying, you have to have a made up mind that you're not going to allow doctors, a man, or anybody dictate your life quality and how long you're on this earth. No one has the right to prematurely take your life or your loved one's life. No one has that right. And you don't give that power to anyone. You don't ever want to get to the point that you look to the doctors or you look to the insurance companies and you let them determine how long you're going to live or how long your loved one is going to live. Understand that you are in control with God's help, and he's here for us, that with his help, you can control your situation. You can make the decision whether or not you're going to fold and let them have it the way that they want, because it always benefits them when you give up. When you give up, they benefit. But why should a loved one that wants to live, why should you give up on them? They have every right to live. And no one has that right except for God to say how long you're supposed to be here. And if you have the determination, if they have the determination and they have will to live, then we as their caregivers, we should love them and stand by them and protect them by any means necessary from this system that is designed to take them out before they're ready to go.
Wow. Very, very, very powerful message. Very inspiring. You said two things there that I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more, because I can imagine some people out there might also be dealing with these two particular challenges that you mentioned, and that was doctors or just getting quality health care for their quadriplegic loved one, and insurance companies, getting the correct compensation for their loved ones from insurance companies. So if you don't mind, could you please give advice to someone who may be going through similar challenges?
Okay. First off, let's start with the doctors. So, doctors are good. All of them are good to have. Doctors and attorneys and all of that, they're good to have because you need them. You need to have them in this system. But first of all, if a doctor comes to you and he says that your loved one is not going to live or whatever, you have the choice to accept that diagnosis, that prognosis, to say, okay, they're not going to live, or you have the choice of going to God and asking God. He's the ultimate source. Tell me what to do. Tell me, is this your perfect will? And if you take it to God first, he is a faithful and just God. He will let you know whether or not it's his will that this person should live. He will let you know. If it's his will, he will give you that peace that surpasses all understanding, and then you will be able to let go. If it's not, he will give you the fight and the fire that you need, the strength that you need to walk your journey. So you don't have to accept, the prognosis of a doctor. That's up to you entirely. I would recommend that if a doctor comes to you and say, hey, there's no way, that you consult God first. Go to God first and make sure that what the doctor is telling you is what God says it should be. And second, we're going to talk about the insurance companies. Now, that is another beast. We have lawyers out here that is supposed to represent us when it comes to insurance companies. So it has been my experience with dealing with the insurance companies that I have also had to be your brother's advocate. At one point, I couldn't even get an attorney to take his case because workers' compensation is based on life expectancy. And since they didn't expect for your brother to live, I couldn't even get an attorney to handle his case. So I had to represent him. I had to go before the judge. Your grandma and we went before the judge, and we pleaded before the judge and asked for favor from the judge in order to get your brother the benefits that we felt that he deserved. So I would recommend to anybody out there, if you're dealing with the insurance companies and you have an attorney, don't sit back and wait for the attorney to do all the work. And please understand, even with the doctors and the lawyers, that your loved one is not the only client that they have. And your doctor and your lawyer is not going to go out and do the research. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do the research. I thank God for you, son. I thank God for having you by my side, and you and I, and we do research. We don't just take what the doctor says. If the doctor says something, you and I both, we get busy and we do the research. If a lawyer says something to me, I just don't take his word for it. I do the research. I look for cases that's similar to your brother's. I do what I have to do, and I communicate with the attorneys. And this is so important. When it comes to attorneys, what you have to remember is that they work for you. They work for you. And you don't need to be intimidated by them. And if you need them to do something, you need to let them know what you need them to do. But understand now, you're not their only client, so they're not going to go all out of their way to do the research. So in other words, you have to help these attorneys represent your loved ones. You got to do the footwork. In so many cases, I had to do the footwork and then pass it over to the attorney. I had to do the extra research and give it to the attorney. He got paid for it, but I wanted your brother to live, and I wanted to get him the benefits that he needed by any means necessary. And if it meant that I had to sit in the library and do the research myself, and do the research myself and pass it on to his attorney to help represent your brother, then even to this day, I'm willing to do that. But I've gotten so good at it now that the attorneys now, they fear me. You know that, they fear me because, if you're educated and they know that they can't just tell you anything, they are intimidated by you as opposed to you being intimidated by them. And that's the position that you want to have when you're dealing with lawyers and you're dealing with the insurance company. You want to flip it. You want them to be intimidated by your presence. And understand that with God on your side, you don't have to be intimidated by anyone, especially if you're in the right and you know what you're doing is the right thing to do. I'm reminded of John Lewis when he said, get into good trouble, son. And so in essence, that's all we've been doing for 27 years with your brother. We have been getting in good trouble so that we can have other people get into some good trouble and save their loved ones in the process.
Wow. Beautifully said. I was just sitting here. I can listen to you. I love listening to you when you get on your roads. Like
you tell me that all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You have a very, very. You're very well spoken. You're very intelligent. You're very courageous. You're very beautiful. And I just want to let you know that it's an honor to call you my mother. And
wow, woo, you make me feel good. But I do want to say this, son, and I do want to encourage people out there when you said intelligence. Intelligence comes from God. And I do not have a college degree. I'm a businesswoman, as you know very well. I did hair for 17 years in Miami before your brother got injured. And that was my passion. That was something that I love to do. Beauty is my passion. So I did what I wanted to do, and I enjoyed doing it. I dropped out of business law just so that I could do hair. So I said all that to say, you don't have to have a degree, you know what I mean, to stand up for what you know is right. And you don't need to be intimidated by people that have degrees, because one thing you need to keep in mind that they're human just like you are. And at the end of the day, we all have to answer for our actions and our decisions. And if you know that what you're doing is the right thing to do, you can have that confidence that God will be with you. He will guide you through the process, and he will never, ever leave you alone.
Amen. Amen to that. Okay, and here's the space where you can share your social media so that if anyone wants to get in contact with you, anyone who's newly been diagnosed with quadriplegia or any similar, or just maybe going through any similar situations with lawyers or doctors, they can maybe contact you and you can give them some advice?
Well, son, they can always reach me here. Disabled Lives Matters. They can message me here and let me know, leave their questions, even if they have a question that they need to know, because we can pretty much guide them through the entire process when it comes to home health care. We have good tips. Your brother for 26 years never had a bed sore. That's unheard of. He was home for 26 years and he never had a bed sore. He got his first bed sore when he was hospitalized. And he got that bed sore then. But he never had a bed sore. He had only had pneumonia 3 times in the 26 years that he was in our care. So I am a firm believer that these people thrive better when they're home. They can get better care when they're home and they're being cared for by people who truly love them, who truly is going to have their back, is going to look out for them, who's not going to let anybody come in and abuse them, hurt them, harm them in any way. It's always better to be home with your loved ones. And you are the one, if you're not the caregiver, be the manager of his care, of that person's care, and make sure that everybody that's in that room with your loved ones at all times is the right person to be in there with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with everything you just said. So there you have it, guys. If you have any questions that you want to ask Linda or myself, you can reach us at Disabled Lives Matter. It's a group on Facebook. My name is CJ Clemens on Facebook. Her name is Linda J. McCoy.
Yes.
On Facebook. You can reach out to us there as well.
I thoroughly enjoyed this interview. I just want to end it by wishing everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you call it. Enjoy your families, love on each other. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but we do know if we live to see this holiday season, it should be a really loving and joyous one. And I wish you all the very, very best.
Absolutely. And good health and positivity.
Amen to that.